अभी किधर तो टाउन में नीचे से क्रीज स्पॉट में डैमेज कर दिया कुछ
वेस्ट विंडसर ग्राउंड वेस्ट विंडसर का ग्राउंड में डैमेज
ईशान कंटिन्यू ईशान कंटिन्यू ईशान
नहीं वेस्ट विंडसर का एक ग्राउंड
चिल्ला है ना हम लोग जॉन एडम्स में निकले वो याद है ना पारो
है बहुत
बेसबॉल चिल्ला के जाते हैं हिल्स बोरो में डैमेज किया
प्रदीप मॉर्निंग ही निकले
मॉर्निंग आपको कल आ गए
हाँ कल रात को
दोपहर के मैच में भी
वो एक्चुअली
जब मैंने
नहीं वो 8 o'clock का था ना तब मैंने फ्रेंड को बता दिया
ओके
अब बता दिया बोल के आना ही पड़ा सबमिट कर दिया
अच्छा क्या बता गाड़ी में कुछ वैसे तो पता नहीं था पर कुछ नहीं उसने कुछ तो एक प्लग हटाया और जैसे ही हटाया और वापस लगाया एकदम से हटा के वो ठीक हो गया स्टार्ट कर रहा था तो वो शेक कर रही थी तो वो हटाया और बोलने लगा कि ये देखो ठीक है जैसे ही हटाया स्टार्ट की गाड़ी इमीडिएटली राइट मैं बाहर खड़ा देख रहा कि कुछ नहीं हो रहा नॉर्मल है
तो गाड़ी ठीक हो रही है
हाँ गाड़ी ऐसे हो रही तो वो हटाया तो निशान करता है कि इंजन के ये वाला पार्ट मतलब 6 सिलेंडर तो 3 सिलेंडर काम नहीं करते तो भी बता रहा था माइट तो मगर यार तो एक बार इतना सब हो रहा था ना एक बार चला के देखिए फीलिंग that's it और देखने के वापस आ जाएगा वापस लगाया कुछ नॉर्मल करूँ but I'm glad now that I came. Of course, he diagnosed me. ऐसा लिया पर
ऐसे भी है तो उससे वही निकाले तो रिसेट हो गया
ब्राउज़र कैश हो जाता है
Good running, guys.
तो वो तो कोई ना कि हम तो हैं यहाँ पे 7-8 दिन अगर हुआ तो मैं वापस आऊँगा तुम रिप्लेस करना पर अभी तो मुझे लगा
अच्छा यहीं पे करवाना पड़ेगा
यही है वैसे जेन्युइन स्टॉप कर
मैं वही तो बोल रहा था प्रदीप रिकॉर्ड कर रहे हैं बहुत केयरफुल
वही बोला लास्ट टाइम इतना में खड़ी हो गया था
क्या हुआ अच्छा अभी तो बताओ वो तो रिकॉर्डेड ऑलरेडी है ना
मजाक में
टीम में आके फिर कंट्रोल किया
अपने वापस
वो दोनों का वैसे अच्छा रिलेशनशिप है
अच्छा उनका हिस्ट्री है समझ
जान भी गए हो गए उसके बारे में बोल रहे हैं
ना मुझे हिंट हो रहा था
दुनिया में
वहाँ पे वो रिकॉर्ड कर रहे थे मैंने
वेदिता कंटिन्यूइंग बॉलर वेदिता
Arjun, got the bowler's name?
वेदिता
8 complete.
नहीं ये देखा है कि बोल रहा है अर्जुन तो स्मार्ट है
अर्जुन का अंक
हाँ अर्जुन का आंख है आँख बंद करके भी निशाना सही लग रहा है
Bowling.
दो लीव थोड़ा लिफ्ट लिया उसको ऑफ कम पे और एक इसमें उसको स्लॉट पे डाल एकदम सिलर नहीं पड़ा स्लॉट में
But you know one day, right, Abiram, Abiram is from USA.
Good running. Call clearly. Television करता है कभी. Now he's good. Like 2 years back. Good call. Good call.
Bowling. Bowling.
That was a good call. I could pick it.
Off stick, where is the off stick?
As long as it's such a clear call, right?
सेमीफाइनल उधर वो एक मैच इधर हारे थे राइट
John!
Good shot, Richard!
शॉर्ट पिच था स्लो बॉल था इट वाज राइट हिट तो भी नहीं मारा आपने पावर प्ले डाउन नीचे से पूरा
Yeah, but power से
go to the bowler man come on
Bowler name Nishai.
it's a grand.
Nishai.
catch coming guys catch coming come on
Nischay. New Jersey का youngest grand player.
तो वो
मनालपिन का है
12 year old, he is 26.
अभी मनालपिन का है
World में he is youngest grandmaster. World में he is youngest grandmaster.
on this side
अभी Ishan is 14. He is 2200. Abhimanyu Mishra.
अच्छा ही नंबर 1
He is number 1 in New Jersey and I mean world में number he is
अभिमन्यु के अब्राम
Abhimanyu Mishra 12 साल का 4 साल पहले स्टार्ट किया उसने केजे हम वो एक्टिविटी से कम टू
But he and his family is very dedicated. Like, so if you come to the shop, because my husband knows the parents. They are super dedicated.
बस से टिप से आया तो पेरेंट्स ऑटोमेटिकली
Yeah,
एजुकेशन आ जाता
Get in.
Wow, good fielded boy, good fielded.
Check your field.
Start Mukund.
Come on, guys, catch coming now.
Preparation काम नहीं कर रहा उसमें सोचो आइस पैक ला लेके बस आया भी नहीं साला उसका वेट करके 4 घंटे वेस्ट किया
My colleague of 4 days, she said 4 vacation days are wasted on her husband.
I felt that what if we plan like in fact it gave us more work. It's not a worry.
Guys, this one, come on.
and you can it is coming back to zero again it is going up to 12 17 there is a semi solid so I don't know whether I can use खराब हो जाएगा लकी मेरा फ्रेंड वहाँ पास में है उसी के वरना वो तो lovely shot Mukund beautiful shot Mukund yeah Mukund 30 हो रही है ना they did not
Okay, come on, reset.
Over
Hey, on the
there.
off. Ball on the off.
Over. Umpire over. 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 All right.
Arjun go closer to understand he was trying to talk and not he could hear all was all good
Bowling, man. There you go. There you go. The line is straight. That's the line. Offside always. You got the line, man. Come on.
Anish bowler.
Arjun Anish
Vicky, is that Anish?
it's a start
Where Adit got out and then no, but it was first said Adit got out, right? Or then one
look at the field.
What a shot, Ishan! Woo! Beautiful shot, boy.
प्रॉपर मारा वो शॉट कहाँ मारना है क्या बाहर हाँ नीचे करके पूरा
नीचे जो बैठता है उसको नहीं मिलता है एलिवेशन में मिलता है
All right, next ball. That's it.
Oh,
Good running, good running.
मुझे लगा मैं पहले तो भी देखा फूड रेस्टोरेंट है कबाब एंड करी करके तो मैं इवेंट फूड वाला भी जब ट्राई पे देखा तो बोला रे कबाब एंड करी बाकी नहीं हो तो उसको देख मुझे बना लगा रहे वो करी और कबाब एंड करी अलग एक का कबाब पहले आता है एक का करी पहले आता है इससे शॉर्ट में फूड तो हम लोग चले गए हाँ
Mukul, what a shot, Mukul! Beautiful shot, Mukul!
कोई बनाते ही नहीं बोल रहे हो
अच्छा लेके जाओ तुम्हारा
पुराने वाले
Excellent stop.
Good fielding.
Nischay continuing.
Bowler name.
Nischay.
निश्चय कंटिन्यू
Come on, Nischay!
साधु कम ऑन
Mere ball tries and Nisha.
अलग टाइप का यार दैट्स अ गुड वन अलग टाइप
All given by coach. My friends have a job.
गुड
White. The English
Last time 3 months it was small puppy. अभी इतना बड़ा
यहाँ था यहाँ
Yeah.
इधर ऐसा I was
But they are for everyone for this.
Yeah, it was very lovely.
oi oi oi
Nisha, look at the field. Look at the ground.
ran too fast. उसका rebound हो
It's okay, guys. Come on. Alert, guys. Alert. Come on.
I think he was excited.
नहीं इसमें हाँ excited तो क्या हो गया he went this way तो बॉल बहुत पॉप था और दूसरे को हैंड ऐसे
Raju, come on. Step on.
बैक लेता तो बॉल आता था वो एक्साइट हो गई है
Run, run, run.
Well tried, guys. Come on.
Take it easy, guys.
Good try. Good try.
Reset, guys. Come on. Both of you.
Practice coming.
Good bowling.
Well played, Ishan. Good ball, good ball.
अच्छा अभी गया एक हो गया
Umpire जाके
Shot in the gap.
Hey, mommy. You have the feedback?
Yeah. You want to eat?
You have to go to the bathroom as well. Call their name.
bowler name Anish
Anish, continue.
Lunch, I don't have anything.
Anish. Arjun. Anish.
I'll give you lunch.
Keep him far and he just played another match. Don't make him run too much.
Proper leg spin.
लेकिन इसका एक उल्टा किसी ने सामने मारा ना वो
किसके वो
इसको ही मारा
Get coming, guys. Come on.
फोन मत देना उसके हाथ में.
No, you enjoy. I'll tell you the score.
Bowling.
हाँ, इसको भी वही चाहिए इसमें. मैं लाई ही नहीं.
88 for Nova.
I got only the.
Ishan is at 40.
हर को नहीं देखे ना
She said this things are coming. Yeah. It's nice. It's nice.
That's it, guys. Come on.
Yes, yes, yes.
Shabari.
told you not to straighten it.
Bowling good, bowling good.
Surround it.
Double K.
Adhiran is playing from start.
क्यों दिन क्रिकेट आया नहीं है?
7 days. 4 over 16 runs.
4 over
16 runs. Yes, beta. Bowler name please. Nishay continue. Yeah. Nishay continue. Six.
Shot Mukund.
Take it easy, guys.
Good shot Mukund.
That's okay, man. That's okay. Sadhu, come on.
देख रहे हैं ना?
Good ball.
Jumping elevation में से
Ready, guys? Come on.
Lovely shot Mukund. Nice check shot.
yeah. That's a good straight shot, beta.
Number 8.
They're making me tired.
I'm like waiting for something to give there.
No, his dad is the head coach. You should tell him. All right, Saket. Fielding assistance coaching.
Arvind in form today.
Sadhu, come on.
Solid.
Good batting. to play 1 over.
Come on, guys.
No?
Lot of places to be just when you get it.
What a shot, Mukund! Stay there, guys. Stay there.
March. Manish, get Arjun wider. Get him wider too. So he can stay there. Widen them up. Arjun, widen up a little bit.
Oh, running.
Righty, guys, righty. Righty.
महेश से छोड़ेगा sometimes he'll do that sometimes he'll do that वो लोग बहुत ज़्यादा डालते हैं
Jumbo shot. Double shot of it comes a little more closer to Indian. Connected at the नीचे में जाता है तो वो Indian. Anytime you go there, right? It's 3.5 hours. At least 4 hours minimum.
Good job, Arnav.
Had it been this side, it would have been.
Pranav, I'll order the lunch now, okay? Okay, so chicken roti kebab comes with naan, right?
अब तो टीमेबल स्ट्रांग हुआ है बाय करने का पहले तो दो ही नेटवर्क थे टीमेबल यूज्ड टू यूज AT&T का इधर दे यूज AT&T और करेक्ट उन्हीं के इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर
Extra motivation. Everyone is fun. Arjun, same way. Because you think too much, you pre-plan so much that you don't do anything. Exactly. You pre-plan, I am going to run every ball, and then you screw.
Yeah, the ball is rolling every ball. I can bend that though.
You didn't have to bend that.
No, the ball is rolling. So
Yeah, so your bat has to be low.
my dad is so good, so small.
Yeah, I went to a game.
They quickly put the helmet and come out, okay? Hemant is going in.
No, the game against Dolphins. Against Spartans.
Just straighten the helmet out. Same substitute, okay? You let him know the substitute has changed.
Or you want a hat?
Wrong comparison, don't get hurt. There is one actor named Balakrishna. I am not the father.
Who's the bowler?
I said sorry for wrong comparison. Don't trouble the trouble. I am the trouble. Bowling.
Fielder Sham. Fielder name Sham. Fielder name is Sham. Good one. Naturally, but what's the piece? Put that in, Mukund.
Well played, well played.
Mukund, well played.
Very well played.
Oh, buddy, I have biryani.
Open 4 runs away.
First man, right? You 15. First man. I mean, yeah, you 15. First time, job. One more, energy. New batsman, no easy run. Okay, listen to the umpire, Ishan. Ishan, listen to the umpire. Ishan, listen to the umpire. Ishan, listen to the umpire. Just go back.
Guys, catch is coming. Pressure.
Boys, walk in.
वो अच्छा इसलिए बोल रहा था इसलिए बोल रहा था
Bowling, bowling.
Late drop now. Good.
Lovely start.
I didn't really consider a dog size. Like, disturbing the middle there, I thought I'd do it.
Good ball.
Ball.
नीचे नहीं लगा नीचे ही काट रहा है
मेरे पास एक रोल ऑन है like you just have to not like just
Good ball.
Fielding.
Fielding.
हाँ जहाँ तुमको लगता है कि वो काम just to that smell will
No, I hit 4. I hit 3 sweeps and 1
Arjun. Bowler name Arjun.
देखो ना भी बहुत बड़ा है इधर से ट्राई करते हैं
Bowler name.
Arjun.
Arjun. Arjun Alagappa. Bowling.
Left. It's okay.
Too much finger. Too much finger.
Bowling. Come on, come on, come on.
Good running.
Bowling. That's it, Arjun.
Bowling. Use the balls.
Oh, guys, some energy. Come on.
in.
Try and jump in. Come on, you should get it. Come on.
Almost.
Quick return, okay? Quick return. Come on, Samad. Ole, excellent. Come on.
Ishant.
One more catch coming, Sham. One more catch to you, okay? Be ready. Bowling, that's it, buddy. That's it. Good.
Wait, what? What's it?
Nice.
Damn, Falcons.
Good running.
Good running, guys.
Good bowling, Ishan.
गौतम इसमें तो
I thought you said I was like 20
Lovely shot, boy. Good running.
Bowler Nishai. Nichai. Anna. Gautam. When you are far, you can take it off and ముక్కుకు తీసేయచ్చమ్మా. Oh, ball!
Running!
Boys.
Don't try to hit too hard. Look at long on and long off. Take singles.
అరవింద్ అరవింద్ కొంచెం టెంట్ ఇటు పక్క పెడదాం చెట్టు ఉపయోగపడుతుంది.
Short, Gotham.
Move the tent. Oh, yeah, sure. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Just to the side so that the tree has shade. Okay. So, మగవాళ్ళు కూర్చుంటారా? వాళ్ళ ముందు మూవ్ చేయమంటారా కిట్ కార్పు పెద్ద కిట్సే కదా అంటే తీసుకుంటాను.
I gotta take a 5 pitch and Arjun. See, you're not a bad bowler. You know, you are inconsistent. Any good batsman's taking a favor, especially on the ground. So, you're a good bowler, you just gotta be more consistent. Go for it. That's like KJ and you are literally identical. KJ. We can get
Ishan.
This Ishan is so slow, bro. That's why. No, Ishan is so slow. No, Ishan is Ishan is wrong.
Nice fielding, Abhishek.
Damn, but I could have batted better than that.
No, no. You need some. Plate में उसको कॉल लगाती हूँ.
And the restaurant is there only. If he's near, the restaurant is nearby only. So, maybe, you know,
Wait, I'll call her.
I've never not wanted you to
Jalap ka bhi next batting, but I don't know when he'll get, नहीं होएगा, and अगर innings खत्म हो जाता, then, bowling का chance out. If you are not too far, or not very close by also, तो मेरे बाजू में एक restaurant है, बहुत करीब. You can, I already ordered, you can set up and go eat. I just text you, इधर ही है वो, उसको 10, but I text you दिया है. Silver spoon only. ठीक है,
Come
मैडम,
behind
ठीक
us
है,
here. I
thank
have
you
to
so
do
much.
this front through the upper edge, not a side edge. No, it's not good.
Almost there.
Throw, man. Throw.
From the spectator's perspective, 15 so easy, bro.
Arvind, home teacher, home.
Defend every ball, be beside your ball.
हाँ, silver spoon है.
You get that first ball, then you get umpires ball. That's it, Ishan. Yeah, buddy.
Come on.
हाँ, ये है. 155 वही था. हाँ, ठीक है. मैं थोड़ा pay कर रहा हूँ. हाँ, मैं एक बार पे कर दूँगा तो then you let her know.
I have texted you. It's around 0.9 miles.
1.9.
One from here. So you look for that. I texted you that. Bob and oh, okay. So it might be on the way back. Okay. So check you can say yes, dear. Are you hungry? Yeah, what do you want? Huh.
Patel से पूछ।
Wait, I'll give you. Oh, sorry. That's my hand. Why you want to take it? Wait, Mama must be having something.
Yeah, yeah, like that.
Oh, nothing. Maybe nothing then. Okay, just roll it up and
Yo, watch, get out.
Bowling, man.
Only इधर है।
Bowler Amish.
They're coming, guys. Come on.
Sad umpire.
Now, good fielding.
I texted her. She said she looked.
Confused.
Tell her that no one is picking. It's under my name. Yeah, we'll wait. And if she goes there, maybe she might call you then. If she goes there, then she might.
Catch is coming.
Confused.
Bowling.
Oh!
Good running.
Gautam. Good job. More fast.
Can you try this?
Huh?
Okay.
Nishchay.
Nishay?
Yes.
We passed corporate over very,
तीन चार की बैंक और नोट कर लेना उनका डॉटर का गेम है ये तो मैं इतना नहीं रुकता था
Yeah, how many was left?
Come on, guys, ready?
विराट डिनर बाहर है today someone else was also calling us in
See, Ishan, that's what I want, but more often now, okay?
Yeah, Ishan!
Shafi, 8 overs left. I want you to play the first shot that comes to your mind. Okay? First shot that comes to your mind.
No, I didn't think that food was that far.
Otherwise they'll go tomorrow morning and they said they need to meet you on
No, actually, then I checked, right? So ये ground 1 hour 30 minutes था. So I told Mimi कि हम नहीं आएंगे. कोई और ground अगर थोड़ा नजदीक रहा तो
तो बड़ा अभी कभी हम लोग जाएंगे because they are night and फिर we are not going. अगर अभी देखेंगे संडे का गेम कितने हैं? संडे ये ट्रैफिक रहता है
he should be a keeper. We'll have to keep it on
Oh my, that's so bad. You know he does it every game. Yeah, he plays nice. No way, right?
Bowling. Good job.
I get a good example of the job.
Oh, you're not allowed? Okay, that's fine.
Good job, Nishay.
No, I won't be order. But I won't order. That's fine.
What's your name, Manish?
Anish.
Right at the first.
are ready.
Both of you get on. I said both of them because they don't know.
They don't take payment over the phone. It's on the way, right? Huh? कार्ड लेके कार्ड ले लेंगे बट फोन पे दे देंगे हाँ हाँ yeah so it's two chicken kebab
When you're melon.
okay yeah perfect
It's when your melanin. I can't pronounce it. It's when your levels of that increase in your skin.
On the way.
Melanin.
yeah she said she had to go almost 5 months to find some place
अरे इधर ही आ सकती थी यार ये तो 1.9 की है 1.9 की नहीं हुई है 1.
I tried cutting so many, but I kept missing them.
एक से बहुत बड़ा डाइनिंग है एक तो क्या है कि जब हाँ वही है ना तो यही ये रेस्टोरेंट जो है ना यहाँ से जाके लेफ्ट लेना और लेफ्ट लेना
And it'd be all at once. No, just keep it sealed.
हाँ ये बात नहीं है ये पूरा एक टाइम बुक नहीं है हमें इसको नहीं दिखाना है
अच्छा you've seen this place
ये तारक में उधर गए चाय हमको लगा मेरी चाय का ऑर्डर उधर भी है
अच्छा you went there हाँ
वो बोला ना वहाँ में लगा है
Vidit is the first winner to clap. No one else has done it.
Gautam Escalade. Power bank.
Score 160.
Hey, 5 hours left.
6 hours left.
6 rest
मुझे भी मालूम है.
अच्छा
मैं थोड़ा एक्साइट कर रहा था.
मारो बोलो
फिर 4 बोल दो
Play free.
मारो
Gautam. Look at the field and play freely.
was it recording all this while
Yes, recording.
Reveal some secrets.
yes
Okay, then we'll add it. We'll add it. We'll add it.
thank you
excuse me
Yeah.
camera is fine
Good call.
Arjun acknowledge the bye
wide and by
so tell the umpire
Oh yeah, DJ. How did the ball bounce that high? Did you see that? No, it didn't. Yeah, he shot.
Baba
Okay, last two over. If he faked us, this would just.
how was that what show some energy
He has to finish
न्यू 7-11 है here and this is a strip mall. हाँ strip. हाँ 7-11 उसके next है. There is one Asian store also and there are quite a few stores. If ज़्यादा problem है तो you know then you can come back. You know. Subway तो sorry subway नहीं 7-11 तो है.
Come on. Fielding, good fielding. Back up guys, come on.
Okay.
Good job Gautam.
हाँ बता बोले कि मॉल स्ट्रिप मॉल दिखा उसको सबसे पता नहीं मुझे था कि 7-11 तो आ जाता मैं क्या लगा था.
Bowling. Nice. Good fielding.
Coach is not giving me bowling. This is not
Nice ball. Nice ball. Don't lose your shape.
Listen me on the
Come on.
Don't listen to Pranav.
Nice ball, Gautam. Nice ball. Yes, well done. Wait for the third ball. The bowlers are tired.
Bowler name.
Anish, continue.
Anish.
Anish. ये notes नहीं है?
No, that's not good. Why 46?
और है
I think your dad looks like
कहाँ से आया मालूम नहीं.
अभी ऐसा आ गया है।
Yeah. He looks like it, right?
bowling Lovely shot.
चलो सर
Sham, I think you should go back.
प्रोग्राम की सेटअप चल रहा था वो और साकिब वहाँ जाके वो प्रोग्राम का सेटअप करना है.
ओके
तो वहाँ एक
Sham,
सैमसंग बड़ा मत करेंगे because I got wireless
with
charger.
your captain, man.
Sure you Just like Lions and Patriots, right, guys?
अब ये इस पे रूम रूपा चेक है रूम जाके वो फ्रेंड के दोस्त के घर पे गया पूरा अच्छा खासा एटलीस्ट फॉर 2 मिनट चाहिए.
Sham,
माइक सब लगा नहीं तो रूम में
go back. Check with your captain.
Yeah, KJ. Just
तो क्या यूज अच्छा वो क्या इसका बैंडविड्थ कम है तो रिड्यूस कर देगा.
उसके लिए वो उसके घर पे जाके सब कैसे उसको मैंने इस पास को कॉल कर रहा था रूबा टेंशन में घूम रही थी बिकॉज पूरा वायलेशन करके आ रहा है. हाँ गाड़ी का क्या हुआ शॉट बॉय इज किलिंग इट बॉय क्या हुआ गाड़ी का
I scored like 5 balls. My daddy is so this from like 5 times. Yeah, no.
Come on, guys, come on.
Yes, you know.
shot boy that gone. That is gone. You can't find that ball. That is gone. That is for sure.
200 up! 200 up, boy!
ये हमारा टीम खेलता है
अपना उसको करते हैं अच्छा बॉलर भी अच्छा माल भी रहा बॉलर.
किस में खेलते हैं वो 16 में
हाँ 14 में देखो उसको टाइगर्स में 14 में नहीं खेलता है या करेक्ट 14 में नहीं खेलता. हाँ वो 16 में.
हाँ मैंने उसको 16 में They're just copying you, man. They're just doing the same thing like you. Come on, tell them to do something differently, man. Come on. They're doing the same thing.
I should have stayed in.
Literally, there were 2 shots that you hit. Just boom.
Yeah, but the sweeps. Oh yeah, the sweeps, right?
Literally coming to my face.
Yeah, no, I was scared I was hitting it. No, Ishan hit one straight down the ground, right? Like me. Shot!
अरे वो
Yeah,
नहीं
shut
किया
the
पैर में
umpire! 50 shot now! Yes! 4-6-6-6-6. Yeah, 4-6-6-6-6. No, in the other match, I don't want to. You should have done it 5 in a row. He dived away. You know, like he gave 21 runs.
available. That's not gonna score. You look like
Papa, why does it say 1 minute 40 seconds?
वो रिकॉर्ड उसमें कर रहा हूँ ना वो रोकना वो 30 मिनट इज द लिमिट तो 30 मिनट उसमें रिकॉर्ड करते हैं
You should only.
Everybody feels so good. Shot! Yeah! Yeah, boy!
How much is that over?
Oh my God. 34. So bad. He's bowling so well. And he's only getting 34.
No, but at least, I mean, like, that statement.
4 overs left, boys.
बड़ा और ये छोड़ो एक साथ गा रहे हैं तो if you guys can roll the ball fast.
Coach, yeah.
It's more fun this way.
For batting they don't need your the bowling also.
Shot!
They're just standing there now.
For the team. 6, 6, 6.
Where are you?
Come on!
6-6.
After team over. Parents are catching ये लोग नहीं
I mean, if he's hitting over there, that's fine, but all the Now maybe the filter is moving, right? Now
the 4-6.
Then now that is now this move, the old guys move there, one effectively अंदर आ गया, right?
गाड़ी का क्या हुआ क्या बोला वो
अरे गाड़ी वैसे तो ठीक हो गई, इसमें कुछ नहीं था सर, ये था कि
it's not a catch, it's 94. Oh, 98.
1 more. I need to take a picture.
यहाँ pose here. Papa दे रहा है.
Can you send it to Coach Savita?
Thank you. आज जब भी but Sunday to put Savita. मेरे को फिर गाली पड़ती है. मैं कुछ करता नहीं हूँ.
आपका कोचिंग बस अच्छा चल रहा है.
लोग समझते नहीं, मेरा इन्फ्लुएंस इतना भारी होता है कि लोग वैसे ही जीत जाते हैं.
It's positive vibe. It's a positive vibe. We should go there. They need help.
Last 10 ball में हम लोगों ने
4 8 6 2 4 और 8 6
3 points. Last 10 ball में हमने 56 run.
They have picked that small.
No, but these are correct balls. I mean, the balls are like that to be bowled
Yeah,
there.
I
They are
know.
bowling like that.
No, they can. You know why? Because we'll take catches.
Okay, yeah, true. And field goals.
थोड़ा क्या एक कैप तो मुझे फाइट करना.
You have to have at least
Yo,
catches. No, it was only one. It was only one drop catch, right?
See, again, guys, do you understand? Because they are consistently bowling full.
or short.
Right under.
And the short
All
somewhere
too
goes
short.
over there and
Like
then.
if you're bowling right under the, like right over here.
Easy. Yes or no? Is it easy? So what would be the correct line of bowling? If you bowl also back of the line, they have enough time to turn around and hit because they are powerful.
And the speed is slow.
That's it's okay, it's okay.
Go back.
I want Aditya to go. Aditya, can you just go and just play? Okay?
Ishan.
Amazing.
Ishan, good innings, man.
Well
Raise
played,
your bat, raise your bat. It's okay. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Go play. Ishan. Guys, go outside the field. Everybody outside the field.
Wait.
Come.
I have to wait.
Oh. Ishan, you have to hold your position.
No. It was just played at the wrong place. Because you were hitting that one area so much that you forgot that there is the rest of the field there.
Yeah, I tried to it over cover.
You did not try to hit it.
No, I actually tried to, but I don't think I tried.
But think of it two things. A, that ball could not be hit over covers because it was too wide. It had to be going over point. Then you would have connected with a full face.
Okay.
Make sense? That's all it is.
Okay.
Did it actually?
Ishan, was that actually out?
Yeah, I know. Wait, coach, there's a mess up in the scoring.
Huh?
Something wrong with the scoring.
Why?
Hey,
Hey, wait.
It's always shadow.
No, short club can be, but the thing is...
Over-handed?
Raise your bat.
Let's do some...
Why? Umpire, 1 minute. Umpire, 1 minute.
You're nice,
Is
Ishan.
anybody like a cricket club's expert or knows what to do? It's not allowing us to choose the bowler. No, it is not allowing us to go to the next bowler. Okay, got it. There is Arjun, my good luck charm. That gives you free dinner. Who is the bowler now?
Bowler name.
Arjun.
Bowler name.
Arjun.
Got it. Done. Hold your on yourself. Kasha. I'll steal that. Shapnil. Thank you.
देखने फेस आई कांटेक्ट
उसको मालूम चल गया उसने कहाँ पे गलत बात Don't reason I want to
अर्जुन विकेट इनिंग ब्रेक के बाद राइट हाँ वो तो वैसे भी सब अंदर जाने वाले वो खाली हो जाएगा ना आपका
Shapnil, again you are trying to muscle. You are just play cricket.
Wicket, come on. Different perspective, like different types of
वो खड़ा है ना वो और वो जाती उधर गया और ऐसे कब के वही कर रहे हैं सामने मारा
Arjun pace? What do you mean? The faster you go,
Their players now
they will take a break.
go 50 line.
Come on, Arjun.
बेसिकली क्या हुआ
Bowling. That's it.
Yes, maintain your shape and lift over there. Maintain the shape.
Bowling, Arjun. That's fine. Come on.
Boundary बहुत छोटा है. That is also of course helping us.
Come on, Arjun.
No, this is bigger than I've now one. This is slightly bigger than that. I've now one. No, Avinal 2 is this size. Yeah. Avinal 1, the inner circle. I think they forgot about it. Shot! All you have to click on is 6. That's 17. What I did was... Got it. What's the last over? No ball? No ball? Papa! Your dad is like, yaar, enough mara wo
Do you need other side same other than the normal USB? No, the USB-C is there, but recently they have USB to USB-C only. Yes. This is addition, around addition. I mean, yeah, different people from different close by.
ये आपका कैमरा
वो हाँ वैसे तो दूसरी साइड होना
watch the ball.
बॉलिंग के लिए अपना इधर है पर जब बैटिंग है अपना उधर होना चाहिए
मेरे को तो वंश की बॉलिंग के लिए देखना था I cannot see.
किया हुआ है बैटिंग सेव करने अगर देखना है तो स्क्रीन ऑफ किया हुआ है और बैटरी सेव करने वाला
Because I have been getting him one thing.
Ricky, look at the field.
I think he understands what I tell him. What I keep on telling him is, क्योंकि उसका जो use of non-bowling आप थोड़ा कम है, इसलिए उसका swing जो है ना, जल्दी हो जाता है. वो अगर ज़्यादा use करेगा ना, तो late swing होगा. Late swing का क्या होगा कि wicket निकल जाएगा. जी, ये यहाँ से
Well left, well left.
उसके अंदर क्या होता है कि जो उसको हल्का सा कम ज़्यादा करना पड़ता है. His hand wrist is very straight. And keep on having an hand that is makes it a muscle memory. So he's trying to pull this, which makes this hand release a millisecond.
Ricky, come on, boy. You can't take it.
And that millisecond allows that more back spin to be generated, which allows the ball to swing little bit.
Ricky, watch the ball. You got this one. Immediately see the scene. Good running. He's batting.
Show him in the video. Oh, because he thinks he does it.
Going to 7?
Coach. What is bowler name? Pranav Mehta. Extend करेगा तो ही आपको देखेगा.
Good over, guys. Good job.
Oh yeah, I thought you were like done. And like the umpire asked, yeah, dude, I thought you played you. This is played you last week.
Just करते रहते हैं. Just practice. कि वो घर पे भी बैठ के ऐसे ऐसे
Go, Ricky!
nicely played man all guys fall
That's the batting, Ricky. Yeah, we'll always get older though. Like, so like, if there's you 13, right? We're gonna be, let's say you're 12 this year. Next year after that, I know, but that's not fair, right? Because the cutoff, like, that just like breaks the whole purpose of cutoff. The cutoff makes you play more.
3 overs, okay? Take your time. Don't have to play a shot at everything. Come on.
Batting, Arnav. Yeah, let's go, Ricky. Boundary time, boundary time.
What are you beating me?
I don't get to that. Even when you do 11, I've had like maybe like 5 times. Maybe 5 times. I remember the first time I ever went there.
But he literally opened finals.
I made it.
Good shot, Ricky.
How can I,
Fielder.
how can I say?
Good job, guys. Good job.
Shot!
Shot, Arnav.
Shot boy! Off one and just on the leg. Both these bathrooms are awkward as well.
Guys, look at your field. You're doing good.
Come forward and play that. Come forward and play that. Arnav. Forward. That ball.
That was hard, dude. Like, I was in a ball over.
What a ball, boy.
Cody, you got this.
Pouty, look at me. Stay in there. Nobody wants to.
Hit on the ground. Only Stay
crazy.
have a game today? In the morning?
Yeah, no, that's not good.
Would you be? You play the morning game as well?
There's only one left and last one and we gave it.
Oh guys, we're doing good. We have 5 runs and 4 over.
Bowler name?
Yeah, I remember when that was
Aditya.
Huh?
Aditya.
Aditya.
There's chairs right there, so I'm pretty sure it's that one. I really could have scored more than one. I really could have scored big if I didn't get bored. We're about to
Because that's true, I know, but then your dad picks me like yeah, it is. Well left, Socket.
Sharks are the best team in the yeah, Google's the worst shot.
Wait, is Sharks better than
Is Sharks Eagles that long?
Wait, who's on Eagles or Sharks? My sister.
I could smash the
No, I know what the girls are.
There's no girls on it.
Wait, why is the Fillion?
I don't know. And Dino. More like, I think so they coached and like, I think
You know on girls' training, she gave who Congress? She gave 15 Okay, I know, but this is in girls' training. Bro, what? This
it was against OCC and Rising Stars. One guy hit like 3 from 40.
I bet the people there were like, oh, good to Oh yeah, there was that lucky guy on their team, right?
Lucky guy. Look at this. Yeah, Sark. He's pretty good. So
No,
it's
Sark
not.
is no.
Yes, he is. So I think it's good.
Oh my Sark, you don't do Sark.
Yeah. Sai is the best back. Sai is not like the best back. He's slow.
Yeah, he's fun. Sai and Sark.
LCC and
On what team?
LLC and Rising. Rising Stars. It's so different.
More ball left.
And then Sai hit 41.
Those were actually like this when they did. When they actually went to the academy.
No, there was no third ball dot. There were 4 wides there.
It's ball offside.
No, yeah, wet offside and short ball because he can't reach down low.
Fourth ball. It's either full or short.
Don't do good ones, or else you're just tall and
You're just,
Second one I know. No,
yeah, you gave like 17 runs, did you?
No, I gave 13 and then pushed him.
Yeah, I was like, what? You know, everyone else did worse than you.
I didn't.
Aryan was like,
Wait, what? Dino already gave us 2 over 25. But isn't that...
In a couple of hours. Around 6. You can put around 6. Okay, and you said they're serving full breakfast or it's only to go breakfast? Okay, thank you.
Oh, guys, you have 10 runs. We're doing good, Ricky. We have enough runs.
Yeah, please send it.
Good shot.
No, I think that's
I'm giving water.
No, they already know they're gonna do that. They put that like one running pass. Let's go, Ricky. It's okay.
Oh, it's overdone. No, let's go in that time.
Ricky single!
It's 5. Shot, Ricky!
Fielding boy.
Let's go, Ricky! That's the one.
Well done, Arjun. Good ball. Keep it up.
Guys,
That's fine.
Don't talk. It's good. Oh, Ricky got three. No.
No.
21.
It goes for 6 toppings.
I'm scared. I'm scared about
I know.
10 off 100.
Hit it straight over the bowler's head, straight to the lawn. And you get out.
No, come on.
Good running. Good running. Ricky, you're doing good. Keep it up.
Ishan, stay at
Let's
5
take
now.
a 10 off 80 and get a 10 off 90.
Fine, yeah. Run out.
Guys, be careful. That was a run.
Ricky looks like he's fast.
One guy.
Look at your fielding, Ricky. Well played. We're just waiting for the match to start.
I like getting Arjun! I don't want to get. I don't want to back
I mean, you can just do it.
No, but I might not do that.
Shot, Ricky!
We're hitting on the ground. They're hitting in the air.
Yeah, we actually missed the point.
Mr. Run out on the
Stop. This is literally the picture. That was I dropped. No. So he's saying, that's really why he's being so unfair.
Bowler name.
Oh yeah,
So he dropped 3 tackles in a row. 1 tackle went right to him, 2nd tackle right to him, 3rd tackle right to him.
why wouldn't you miss?
We didn't know.
I know.
I was right after that 3rd catch, right? Like, we didn't know.
Literally half the team is 5.
And he missed a run out.
Bro.
Half the team is 15 and the other half is 5.
Yeah.
By Nivon.
Because we've been at the 15.
Also, it's so not good. I've like seen them. No, for like SSC and nice, but
After they won the game, we were just playing.
and one half.
That kick was good enough.
So many balls in the slot, and I want them to hit. I'm really busy, but I can't. That's why That's better. That's better than. It's gonna be.
And then run like feeling like he's going to triple century.
What's on? What's his name? I 3-4 in a row. And then
It was a 2-run, but he only ran one because he knew he was being hit, and then he was like jumping.
Oh yeah, Dev. I remember. Oh, against the Dev, I remember. It was almost first. And I remember Arnav hit 3 4 from the roll up.
No, I think I hit 2 4 in a row. And 1 4 out hit.
Good running.
How did he finish that? No, because they said that the rules. No, anyone could bet. He was a dumb umpire. Couldn't be left to go. No, this is you guys. Dude, you know it's actually dumb. No, second she probably hit 4.
No, I'm talking about 6 in the building.
Bro, was that not? It went right to the fielder. He dropped it. I think the fielder got a hand to it. Otherwise, that was 4.
Good shot, Ricky. Just be careful.
He watched the field.
Ricky, you want water?
Yeah, do you want water? Okay, what is the shot? Yeah, we got water. No, you don't want water.
Next over, Ricky, we're coming.
Yeah, Ricky, just water.
Like 90 degrees. Like 80 degrees. 70 degrees. 75. Goal is 100. Yeah, you know, it's like, and then this thing is better.
You see the blue wire bar? That's a little game like
50.
Okay, you know who got 7 off 30?
Yeah.
Hey, this is going to be 10 off 50. Not this is going to be 10 off 50. That's more than a 20. That's a 20
Literally,
strike rate.
it's screaming him for him to actually take out
You
the
have
helmet.
to.
Well
Well played. Good shot.
Yeah, we're not going to get to the semis either way.
Okay, I know, but that was really good.
No, we will. For like 7 and 8.
Either way, it's probably gonna be like. I really wish I stayed in though.
Hey, let's try. Okay, our goal is not to be last.
Yeah, we just can't do it.
We already okay, guys, we got no, if our goal is 50 for 30 overs, there's nothing more.
Using the same ball, they can make it.
No, do you know what?
I said it at this rate, our goal should be. Okay.
No, we have 20 minutes. Or like 18. Oh, good shot.
They're staying back. They're not staying like on the boundary. They're staying back on the 50. Like it's annoying. It's annoying.
Guys, just tap and run.
Tap on good leg.
Guys, tap it. Look for singles. Rotate, guys.
Single double. For runs.
No, after they
guy got out on was the shittiest goal of all time. It was so short, this goal also the outcome, but I was aiming for that. He was about to go off the pitch. That's how bad it was. But he exited, and that's what I was aiming for. Yeah, it was.
Come on, Ricky, watch your field, you got
He's too
this.
nice and he's too slow.
Shot, Ricky!
Fielding boy, fielding boy, fielding.
So I don't think we have
Okay, now come get your chairs in here. Where you go sit here? There's a lot of chairs here. Yeah, behind. Vedita, come here in the shade. Why? No, don't sit on the sun. It's so hot and hot. Come here.
Yeah, the sun feels nice.
No, you have to get the water bottle. You have to
See,
get the water
there's some shade here. What happened? What happened? Fielder name? Fielder name? Go, who's this guy here? Hey, Ishan. Hey, go there. Go occupy that shade. Like that, wherever the shade, but spread out. Don't sit in the sun. By the time you go to the back, you are going to get tired. Yeah, spread out, but yeah, we have to wherever the shade, just spread out, yeah. Come into the shade.
Go get the water.
Can I get here? No, thanks. Okay, how many lefties do we have?
Gautam, the ball has a lot of fight. Look at it.
Let's go!
Let's go, Gautam, first score! So he's actually really tired. Actually, we got him out. He scores 40 points.
How'd you get him running?
One wide. Before the wicket, there was one wide, right?
I don't remember people like that. I saw that.
Good job, Gautam. Good job, Ricky. Stay in.
Bowler name.
Yeah, I know. I was watching this. I was playing video games and watching
150. Gautam, you're doing good.
Yeah, the second, we could probably
And beat them by a long way.
no, we have to
Don't beat them. What about Deepak? Deepak's not coming.
That's a good one.
Lovely catch. Good, beautiful catch.
Keeper name? Mukund.
Good catch, good bowling boy.
Wicket keeper name?
Mukund.
You don't?
Water on the water.
Gautam did it.
No, we jinx you, we jinx you.
Yeah, because he didn't.
I always got really bad.
I know. I thought we could actually win.
Yeah, so that is we're winning the other game.
I've almost won 2 games.
Yeah, we
Almost not.
you don't
We
even
won 1 game in a guarantee.
that's it.
And my record is
Okay, same thing.
and you 12.
One on name? Yes. Yeah, my friend. I was literally looking at the list.
Yeah, that's why they're not on.
What a catch. Catcher name Aditya.
I know, but he's not using. No, I'm not.
When I don't get duck, I get
Well bowled, Samay.
No, they're so bad.
like the ball.
They fight the ball like heck. That was like that pitched in like the middle of the pitch. Yeah, do that.
Check that. I've never counted my foot when I wear my diaper.
Faster ball again. Excellent ball, boy. Excellent.
Yeah, I'll make a center ball. Wait, I'm gonna launch.
If it's the video I'm talking about, though, just
Very good.
stay there in a video. You know that scene? You shoot high and score low. So if I try for a match, I'll at least be better than one. I'll just about to start.
Inside.
I'll do on the line.
Good keeping. Good keeping.
Bowler ne?
Bowler ne.
This is horrible.
No, don't throw.
Good for Joe.
The most we can do is help them. No, not the most we can do. If we can bring these fast together, yeah, we would help the line. You know what I go with? I have to get on the actual.
So then what if we face the Lions? Then we what?
No, we win the game because we're us.
We beat the Lions.
Bowling boy. Good keeping.
But both being FSC has nothing to do with it. Yeah, you know if you look the... It could have been us versus them. Yeah, no, he meant to be. Well, it won't be. SSCA maybe. No, our line's winning. got the boy. Good boy.
Good try, Anise.
At least we stayed and I give her
Just stayed in.
You know what I tried to do though?
Go to short ball.
Good shot.
Let it go to like dog.
That's a little bit hard. He's scoring well, but not tough.
I can't score it.
I think
Like 15 over like 20. There's some watch out. Those little guys, they won't answer it. They will keep so high.
Yeah.
I should have came out for those two girls.
No, but like I can do that. Like,
I know. I didn't like them. Yeah, I know. And the other half are probably going to. And Lindsay, this is your tennis ball. And then you should watch that. You can't get out like that. Yeah, that was
हो गया ये टाइमर शुरू हो गया और देन ये डिस्प्ले ऑफ करना है क्योंकि बैटरी से 1 टाइम 2 टाइम 3 टाइम 4 टाइम 4 पे जब हो जाए मतलब देन ना अब उसमें 28 मिनट का टाइमर सेट कर लो अपने उसमें
और फिर डिस्प्ले दबा के
दबा लो अभी और देन दोबारा स्टॉप करने के लिए दोबारा दबाओ एक बार दैट्स इट एंड नाउ 30 मिनट चलेगा तो अलार्म सेट कर लो 1 मिनट
Let's go, Anish! Yeah, that's saying something. Yeah, that's saying something.
How did he bowl in that?
Bro, what? Good running! Call master! Is that no ball?
No, above the shoulder one.
Is that not a no ball?
No.
That would have went so far.
It's okay.
I saw it.
Yeah, Gino, he was like mid-on.
Above the shoulder one for the one.
Yeah, he ran like literally like, you know, sign-up?
Got it. That is fine, but above the shoulder is allowed one.
I don't know if he had no sign-up.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, she didn't run.
saw the ball, like the ball was like.
You know, she got like 18 times.
Because he got his shoulder,
I got like 60 on it, like 70 on the pace. Hey, no cap for your patience, bro. My highest is like a 60.
Come on, guys, clear calling.
Mine's a 60.
My last pace score was like almost 40. I know, same.
Also, turn left side and watch from here.
That's like school record level.
No, school doesn't even let you go higher than
I don't think he has.
No, yeah, they do.
No, not my school.
School sucks. My school has right elementary school. That's horrible. That's like really bad, bro. Every school has 100 buses.
My lowest is like. Yeah, but like. My lowest is probably like.
What school are you at?
Yeah, what school do you go to? Anish used to go. Yeah, do you? Good guy, yeah, why didn't you join our academy? Oh, yeah. No, that's why coach is practically yeah, he's not bar guy.
Yo, win. Elbow.
I feel bad.
Oh.
It's so much harder when you're in your pads too. Don't drink.
Why am I your pie?
That's why I'm wearing this shirt.
Guys, what's your record?
Give me that ball. What? I need throw down. Give me.
How old is Mr. Miller? I thought mean W. The second last one should have pulled like that.
Good shot.
Well played, Guppy.
I just.
It's okay.
So frustrating.
You know we're not gonna win. How's the other game?
Bro, Anish captain's there too.
What do you tell?
Going good. Keep rotating. Ballers left. Bro, my brother had the habit of putting things in his mouth. Uncle, don't worry about it. Uncle, don't worry about it. He here has the habit of putting things in his mouth.
Watch the ball.
How much fielding do you have? That's cool. Especially when you're young. You have to get a drink.
We used to never know. Even always used to
No, I remember when I first joined, we always did fielding first. Coach would do fielding so much more than now all the assistant coaches do the fielding. But like,
no, that was just this one on Monday.
no, for like the past like years, it's been Coach Aaron as well. That's like so easy. We used to do like
No, but
hard
coach's
fielding,
fielding is actually
like fly catch, like from one end of the facility, like from one end of the net from the other end. It would just be like flat catches.
That's so hard.
Running back and forth, and like one of those, balls to the outfield,
Oh yeah.
multiple catches, and like really close catches.
At least the facility
But it's
in
been a while.
John, at least the facility in
Imagine living with two brothers. How many sisters? Older or younger? Oh shit, yeah. You allowed it? Oh, middle school. God. What do you mean you? What do you mean? No, are you kidding? No. That's because you're in the Indian community. And like 80% of like African community. 80% of the Indian population goes to India. I know a lot of rockers get sick. I know a lot of rockers.
If you watch the ball play straight.
Golden goes to India. Wait, you were in Ladue? Oh yeah, he's in Ladue. You guys have a pod shop?
Yeah, then you know the
Open, play straight.
Don't swing the bat too much. Come on.
Yeah, boys, good job. Good shot. What a shot. What a shot.
Go, go, Pete.
Shot boy!
What a shot.
One of the few.
Got it, got it.
Run faster.
Arjun, if you're hitting, that's fine. Just watch it, okay? Don't close your eyes and swing. Watch it and hit. Proper shot. Play faster. Do it.
I could have played the boundary though. I could have played the boundary. I didn't middle. It was a short ball. It should have stayed in. How would you know that was? Is it you 15? I'm 15.
Honey, if you're in pain, if you can't do it, that's okay. Yeah, okay.
I actually feel better now. Stupid thing won't give us a schedule. Why would we switch one when there's only like 10 teams?
No, there's like
What, in U15? positive, play positive. It's okay even if you miss it.
Watch the ball and eat. Play it.
Play positive.
What do you mean? You guys are too good.
Looking shot.
Coach Milroy develops kids in like a rapid way. Because he grows them on the league.
अभी नाम ठीक लगा दो
Somebody really get different. No? No. I thought he had like
Why did a batsman get retired after playing? Because they put the wrong batsman. No, like remember the first four balls were the second. Oh, because Abhinav.
You bowler name?
One name was.
Play positive, you should play positive.
my dad has something behind. Why? Oh my god. Why does he have a chest?
He acted.
Yeah.
No, dude, I think it's a bottle. No, it's a chest bag.
Why he strapped a water pump? Just carry it.
You know, like
Forget about the last ball.
Oh yeah, dude.
I thought he gained like 20 pounds in that 5 years.
Keep it on the ground.
Where's the nickname Saad? What is Saad?
Okay. That it only looks like he tried to tell you what.
He made a hard throw.
Lot of time, enjoy and play.
Yeah.
humongous guy who came from another country. No, but he's in college. He was huge. He doesn't play with us. He used to. Years ago. No, he doesn't play anymore. He came to one of the Wednesday
मैं बता रही हूँ अरे खोलो नहीं अब हम इसको दबाओ 4 टाइम्स बस चल
uphill. What's 1 divided by 0? No, bro. Okay, anything divided by 0? It's like spray on skin. I see why. I put Tiger Balm on like 2 days ago, but I put like too much and it started like burning. I hope it's a morning game. This took forever.
So it's like a checkpoint game, or to be like at 6 o'clock. It's like say
It doesn't even feel that long, but we'll have been gone like the entire day. Like, I just woke up and then left, and now it's gonna be like night when I get back. Is that any bad? Well, I like that.
there has to be like 3 teams that win today, or I know that winner, but I have to switch to I don't care. Like there has to be like 4 to the teams that win half will be half the teams that win.
You put his name.
But the only thing is like this
What size is it? You probably want my hair. Because you're taller than me. How tall are you? 5'8"? Oh, I'm 5'2". Well, never mind. Check the camera. What the heck happened? Keeper was the catch. So W went for a sweep, it edged, went straight over the wicket. With one hand. I saw like he went like this.
Anybody else who can bat? Come on, bat up.
Okay, basically, right? It was like that was okay. Oh, it was like I had to wait like 10 hours before it came, and then I tried squeezing it, right? It hit right here on the top. That's right here. You know what's disgusting?
Yeah, looks like. Hey, who's the cashier? Mukund. Oh, okay.
Once. Catch is once. Once. Once.
Done.
You did it?
Yeah.